with your hosts, Joe Bob.
You're awful.
And AJ Applegarth.
It's Sin Shu Chu. It's a mouthful.
All right, welcome to the Fantasy Six Pack Hour. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. AJ can't make it this week, so I've got a sub co-host, somebody who's been here before, Kevin Huo. What's up, man?
What's up? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on. Before we get into it, though, I want to remind everybody, subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us, Periscope, iTunes, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen. Appreciate the support. Go ahead and click that follow or subscribe button. Definitely helps us out. So, Kevin, week one's in the books. We started week two. The Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals are on the air right now. How you feeling after week one, man? I'm pretty 50-50 with some of my teams, man. I don't know.
I'm in my normal leagues. I think I went like 3-2. A lot of injuries to deal with, surprisingly, before week one even started.
Yeah,
you're definitely going to get into that. But as you know, I came in 7th this week in Scott Fish, so that kind of just saved my whole weekend.
I mean, that makes you feel good no matter what. You could have gone 0-5 in all your other leagues or whatever, and been 7th place overall in Scott Fish, and you're just like, nothing else matters.
I just looked at that. I was like, okay.
Yeah, way better than me, man. My Scott Fish Bowl team tanked. Pretty fantastic. Got an uphill battle to make it 6 years in a row to make it to the conference finals. So hopefully things work out. I don't know. Losing Sanders and my safety picks of James White and Chris Thompson did not work. So I don't know what to think. So anyway, we've got a guest with us this week, but before we get into that, let's do our beer of the week.
Beer.
All right, I know you're not exactly drinking a beer, but what you got tonight?
I came with something alcoholic still. Got a high noon pineapple flavored.
All right.
Delicious. Very low calories, 100 calories, gluten-free, no added sugar. Very nice.
All good, man. I'm not the I don't get into those, but I know a lot of people that do. I am drinking an Oliver Brewing Company double dry hop double IPA, 8%. It's called You Know My Seas. It's all Citra, cryo. I don't know, man. There's cashmere hops. It's all the sea hops. It's very tasty, light, pretty light tasting considering it's an 8%, and a double IPA because of the Citra and stuff. That kind of gives it like a light, refreshing flavor at the same time. So I enjoyed it. I think I gave it a 4 1/4 on Untapped. So
we're on completely different ends of the spectrum here. I've got a pineapple seltzer, and you've got a double IPA.
Well, I do usually drink with AJ, and he's right there with me. So I usually got to keep up with him.
I'm switching it up a little bit.
That's all right. Hey, that's all good, man. I do not discriminate alcohol here as much as I've made fun of you pre-show. All right. Our guest this week to help us out prepare for week 2 is Dylan Clemens, a writer and podcaster for Fantasy Six Pack. Catch him over here on our YouTube channel and their own Anchor channel as well for the Wolfpack Fantasy Football Show. Him and Michael Bonney and Michael LaPlante do a fantastic job over there, so go ahead and catch them too. So, Dylan, how you doing tonight, man?
Good, man. How you guys doing? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Absolutely. Glad to have you. So, got a lot to talk about, so let's just jump right into it, man.
Sounds good.
All right, so something we're doing new this year for those of you who didn't catch it last week is I'm trying to have something called advice column, and the topic this week is the same as it is every single week, every single year after week 1, and it's don't panic. Like, guys, I get it. I had a bad week 1 in some teams. You got guys that completely underperformed all over the place, but what you got to remember is if this was, if they had like 4 or 5 good weeks in a row, and then they had like one down week, you would just chalk it up to a bad week, right? But week 1 hurts more. You 0-1. They look really bad. They're buried on the on the stat lists and the fantasy point lists. All right, and you're like, oh man, that's the start of the season they're gonna have. It looks really bad. It's a bad feeling. First impressions are everything. And first impressions of fantasy football, fantasy baseball, whatever it is, like that matters too. So I get the the natural reaction to panic and worry. I'm not. I do it too, but I've seen some interesting trade questions. I've seen some interesting drop questions. I've had people try to ask me if they should like dump Ekeler. I've had people ask me if they should, trade OBJ. Like these guys are gonna be fine. Like just calm down. Kevin, what are your thoughts on not panicking after week one here?
Yeah, I'm exactly on the same page with you. Every year, week one, it's just a small sample size. It's not, while it does tell us a little bit more than usual since we didn't have a preseason, you can't really base too much off of what you see in week one. Like every year it happens. Last year, we all remember Sammy Watkins blew up. People had him as wide receiver 5, literally wide receiver 5 going into week 2. That obviously didn't happen. So you can't overreact that way. Just a bunch of weird stuff happens. It's small sample size. Football is small sample size. So I think last year, George Kittle had like 54 reception yards in week 1, and he ended up being the tight end too. So you can't really count on stuff like this too much. Just, go with your gut, or, whoever you still had belief in when you draft them. There's not too much reason to, unless it's something insane like Adrian Peterson coming in and taking the majority of the touches.
Then that's something we didn't prepare for. that happened 3 days before the season started. So that's a different ball game. So Dylan, you got anything to add to this or?
No. I agree pretty much with everything you guys said. I had a couple wild questions too. Like I got asked if somebody should sit Nick Chubb this week for James Robinson. I'm like, no, don't do that.
And Chubb's basically just rolling here so far early. So that's a good no call on your part there. So that's the advice this week. Pretty plain and simple here. Just stick with it, guys. Exactly. Kevin, you said it exactly. You drafted these guys early for a reason. I get it if it's like you're kind of stab in the dark. Your dart throw late in a draft, like, okay, fine. Go pick up the guy that performed and dump that guy late. Like, who cares, right? What are you losing at that point? Nothing.
Yeah.
So,
like I saw you drop Steve Sims, your boy.
I did, but hey, man, I have a lot of injuries piling up in that league, and so with Michael Thomas out, I figured I'd take a shot at Trayvon for a few weeks and see what happens. It is the Washington offense. I don't really know how much I can trust it. So I'd rather have Drew Brees throwing to my receiver instead of Dwayne Haskins.
Oh, really? Oh, that's a hot take, Joe. I don't know. About
that.
Really?
Oh, okay. Going out on a limb. All right. So next topic here. I asked a question late Sunday and on Twitter, and it was, how are we feeling after week one, guys? Who are you excited about and who are you worried about? Got a bunch of responses, and I wrote down some names, and I kind of want to run through these guys with you and just kind of get your pulse for these guys. Arrow pointing down, arrow pointing up. How worried are we? If we are even worried, how excited are we? Or is it just kind of like game flow dependent type of thing? Start right off the gate here. Ravens and J.K. Dobbins got the 2 touchdowns, saw a lot more work than I honestly thought he was going to get. And Mark Ingram right there on the other side there, worried. I'll just kind of pair those two together because they are on both lists. Dylan, what's your thoughts on Dobbins and then Mark Ingram here? Like, is this going to be more Dobbins as we go now, or is this just kind of like hard to tell? Who knows?
Man, I don't know, because the touches were close. Ingram got 10 touches, Dobbins got 7. Dobbins got the red zone work this week, and obviously fell into the end zone twice. Is it weird to say that I don't really want either guys in my lineup right now, and they're probably one of the best rushing attacks in the NFL?
I don't think so. I do have Ingram and Scott Fish, and that was another one of those. He was my RB3. Of course, I'd be
Safe.
RB2 last. Yeah, well, right. I mean, he was my RB3. I got him
Yeah.
at like 8 or something like that. I was like, oh, all right, I'll take him. He's on the best rushing offense in the NFL. What could go wrong? Well, a lot apparently. So it wasn't great. I don't feel good about it, but I mean, I think the arrows are going the opposite direction of what we all thought. I mean, Kevin, I went into this thinking Mark Ingram was pretty much going to be status quo from last year, maybe a tick below, and Dobbins was going to have to be working his way in, and he just seemed right at home.
Yeah, Dobbins looked really comfortable in the pro game, and it was surprising to see him get the red zone work because that's kind of what Mark Ingram's known for, is kind of scoring touchdowns. But it's kind of hard to tell in this game. Dobbins did the majority of his work when the Ravens were already up a little bit. Ingram kind of just had a bad day. 10 carries for 29 yards. I'm a Ravens fan, so I kind of went back and watched it. He just missed a bunch of holes. I don't know if that's going to continue going forward. I would imagine if the game is closer, they'll still trust the veteran Ingram in, passing situations and red zone situations. So while the arrows, like you said, are going in opposite directions, I wouldn't overreact too much. It looks kind of crazy just because Dobbin had the 2 touchdowns. But
yeah,
honestly, if Ingram had got those snaps, he probably would have got those touchdowns too.
Yeah. This was a little game flow dependent. I can agree with you there. So next guy here on the list is Jonathan Taylor. Now, of course, this is a little injury related, but we got to bring it up because, interesting enough, we're gonna have to bring Hines into this conversation, who strangely enough did not get mentioned in my Twitter responses. But Jonathan Taylor's arrows obviously skyrocketing. Marlon Mack out for the year with the Achilles. But Taylor got a good chunk of work regardless. Hines obviously was involved early and often, got those 2 really early touchdowns. But Taylor, I would think at this point now, is going to get the bulk of the carries that Mack was going to get. So, I mean, how excited are we for Jonathan Taylor? And Kevin, I'll let you start.
Yeah, super stoked. Obviously you don't want to see anyone go down with an injury. Like Marlon Mack is a talented back and he's young, but guys who drafted Jonathan Taylor, this is almost the perfect recipe where Jonathan Taylor is going to be the guy now. And like I said, I told Richard and Jonathan on our podcast, you can kind of think about this Colts offense like the Chargers last year, because Rivers is pretty much going to do whatever he does when he comes into the offense, and Hines is going to play that Ekeler role, which frees up Taylor to play that Gordon role, except that I think Taylor is probably more talented than Gordon, and behind a better offensive line.
Absolutely.
So Taylor going forward to me is a top end RB2, maybe even RB1 going forward.
Yeah, I think he struggled to find some holes. I mean, it's just weird. Like some of these guys you could tell there was a little rust on some guys coming in, and so hopefully he can do better than 9 for 22. But the weird thing is, and Dylan, I'll let you speak to this. He got 6 passes. He got all 6 of his targets. I was really shocked to see him get that involved in the passing game. And if that's going to happen, I'm up with Kevin and the fact that he's a low end RB1 the rest of the way, if that continues.
I agree. And with Mack going down, like Kevin also said, his floor is probably running back too. So you plug him in your lineup every single week and definitely feel okay about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And this week they get the Jags. So
yeah.
Or no, last week they got the Jags, right?
Yeah.
Or I have last week's stats up. So yeah, hopefully they can figure, who do they have this week? They have Minnesota, who their defense isn't quite what it used to be. So I think he can do some damage there too. So, all right, next guy on the excited side of the ball here, David Johnson kind of surprised everybody last Thursday. Scored once, right? Or twice? Yep. Scored once. 11 carries for 77 yards. I mean, super efficient. A touchdown. Caught 3 for 32. They got behind really early. They're playing catch up, but I mean, David Johnson's the guy that can catch balls out of the backfield, so you're not really worried about that there. I mean, How excited are we getting for David Johnson, or is this just kind of like it's one game, I'm gonna wait and see, or are we kind of jumping back in on the David Johnson train? Dylan, what do you think?
I'm kind of eating my words because I wasn't a big fan of David Johnson coming in.
A lot of us were.
He looked really good actually last Thursday. He looked like he had his burst back and everything. So I'm actually pretty excited to have him back around. And like you said, the Texans defense is bad, and he catches. They're going to be playing a lot from behind. He's obviously a good pass catcher, so he should see a lot of volume. Duke Johnson's banged up now, so.
Yep.
So yeah, I like Johnson's outlook moving forward.
Yeah, I think the arrow's moving up on Kevin. Anything to add there for you, or?
No, I think just this is one of those situations where the box score doesn't look that good, but if you watch the game, David Johnson kind of looked like he had his old juice back. He was making jump cuts. He was making people miss. And he's one of my favorite buy low targets right now because I think this week they're playing the Ravens. He's going to have a similar game to what he did last week against the Chiefs, where he's not going to get too many carries because, honestly, I think they're going to fall behind pretty quickly. And he's going to have another game that doesn't look too impressive in the box score. So maybe you can prime away from an owner.
Yeah, I mean, hey, he still got 18.4 fantasy points and a half PPR last week. So you'll take that 100 like every day from him. So another guy people are really getting soaked on, and a big favorite of mine coming into the season was Chris Carson. I loved him coming in. I thought he was super underrated. Interestingly enough, not a whole lot of work in the run game. This was a huge passing effort by Russell Wilson, Mr. Unlimited.
Mr. Unlimited.
Oh, man. And but as much as they were to pass the ball, Carson was the guy for them out of the backfield. He caught 645 and for 2 touchdowns, man. Now, weirdly enough, he actually had less rushing attempts than Carlos Hyde, one less. But I mean, do we take anything from that, Dylan? I mean, or was it just they got ahead so early they just were like, Chris, you go sit down?
Yeah, I think obviously Carson had off-season hip surgery, if I'm not mistaken,
Yep.
right? So I think they just kind of wanted to ease him in a little bit. But it was good to see him involved in the passing game, like you said.
Yeah, big time. I was super stoked to see that. I was like, yeah.
Because that's not really known to be his strong suit.
Dalvin Cook, and Chris Carson. I smashed the person I played.
I bet.
I mean,
It's unfair.
I mean, gotta love home leagues, right? Yeah, I think Kevin. We'll just move on here. I think this one's pretty obvious. So obviously, Josh Jacobs. I brought him up. He's the other one that people are getting excited about. You know, we talked all off season how Gruden kept saying they're going to get him involved in the passing game. 60 catches, right? And he caught 6 passes. I mean, he's spot on. So if we can see that from him, right? And he ran 25 times for 93 yards, 3 scores. He got 4. 4 for 46, though, and 46. 4 for 46, off 6 targets. That's what I was saying, 6 targets. So, I mean, if that kind of thing can continue. Now, this was a bit of a shootout, but he still got 25 carries in a shootout. I mean, Kevin, I moved him as soon as they got rid of Bowden. I moved Jacobs up into my mid-first round. I was like, I'm all in. I don't think I'm going to get 3 touchdowns every week, but I mean, what can we expect from him the rest of the year? With this kind of team around him. I mean, he's the guy.
He's the focal point of the offense, for sure now. And my one concern going into the season was that it was kind of just smoke, that they weren't really going to give him that passing work because they brought in Bowden, they brought in Theo Riddick, they brought in Devontae Booker, but John Gruden finally did us a solid, and they're throwing him the ball. He was second on the team in yards and targets behind only Darren Waller. Yeah. Of course, he's going to get 80% of the running at work. So, if they can score touchdowns at this rate, which they probably won't because the Panthers defense sucks, but I mean, he's going to be the main guy in that offense. So yeah, like you said, he should be like a mid-round RB. He's probably RB6, RB8, something like that now. He's comfortably there for me with this pass catching work.
Yeah, I think he's definitely one of the safer guys. It's just hopefully he can stay healthy. That was a concern for him last year. Although he played through that shoulder injury, so until the last couple games. So hopefully that sticks through it. The last guy here on our excited side of the ball here is Dallas Goedert. People were, he was kind of a sleeper tight end pick, and he went off in week 1, man. 8 for 101 and 1. And I mean, look, when you look at that receiving core and just how bad it is, and Alshon's not getting healthy anytime soon, it looks like. Deshaun. Like, he's going to have, 4 good games. Rager looked okay, but Wentz was missing him a lot. That offensive line is just awful. It's not healthy at all. After that, it's just nobody. So, and Sanders was hurt, so that obviously helped Goddard get open a bunch, or be the focal point here. But I mean, how excited are we the fact that Goddard was better, way better than even Ertz? Dylan, what's your take on that?
I think Goddard is a borderline tight end 1 every week now because of what you said. There's not a lot of options in that passing game, and Wentz likes to throw to the tight end, so he's just going to get funneled targets along with Zach Ertz. I don't think he's going to take over and jump ahead of Ertz on the target list all season, but yeah, I'm a fan. I'm excited for Goddard's upside.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how teams cover both of these guys. It's hard to put corners on tight ends like this, and they've got 2 really good ones. So, if you got that really good linebacker that can cover a tight end or a safety, most teams don't have 2. So it'll be interesting to see how teams defend this. So, all right, jumping over to the worried side here, and we'll start here with the guy who's playing tonight, and I'm not keeping track of his stats right this second, but Joe Mixon did not have a great first week. I mean, 19 carries for 69 yards. Only caught 1 pass for 2 yards. It's not something you really want to see. I know the Chargers got a good defense, but you were really hoping for more there. Excuse me. Mixon had a huge end of the year last season, so I was kind of a believer again, although there was part of me that was like, for somebody else, I might take him. Just because I was worried. Like, he burned owners last year early in the first half. Like, you couldn't make that up. You were already dead in the water if you didn't draft somebody late who could fill in for him. But Kevin, I mean, what's your thought on Mixon? And I'm trying to look up his stats for this game so far. He's 8 for 26. 4 receptions already for 40 yards. So he's back involved. I mean, how worried are you though with Mixon? I mean, he's just going to be Joe Mixon or what?
Yeah, I think on the worry scale, 1 to 10, I'm probably a 4. I'm not too worried about it. I'm not too surprised that coming into this season with no preseason, with a a completely new quarterback, they're going to try to do a bunch of different things. He missed some time due to the contract dispute. He had migraines supposedly, so. I'm not too surprised to see him a little bit uninvolved in week 1. And then week 2 also is a short week. So if it doesn't get better, he's a guy who you can buy low on if, the owner's disappointed in him. Because I think he's going to have the bell cow role going forward. Like you said, he already has 4 receptions this game. He's going to have that involvement in the passing game. And he's much better than Giovanni Bernard as a runner.
Yeah, so. No kidding. That's not hard to do. All right, so... another guy who's playing in this game, Odell Beckham Jr. Last week, peppered with targets, 10, but man, Mayfield was bad. Missing him left and right, throwing it behind him, low. It was bad. I mean, he caught 3 of them for 22. You love the targets, but the production was not there. Odell was obviously frustrated. This game already coming out pretty hot, 3 for 68 and a touchdown. Off of 3 targets, so they're playing better. Granted, it's a little bit better of a matchup for them, not the Ravens, so that helps everybody. So worry meter there for Odell and for you, Dylan.
I was somewhere in the middle until they started playing tonight, and it's good to see now. It looks like him and Baker got some sort of a connection back, because there was obviously some sort of disconnect last week. Or it could have just been the matchup, and Odell has historically struggled against Marlon Humphrey in the past. So Might have just been the matchup, but so I'm still in on Odell for the season.
Yeah. All right, so I'll jump in here to the next one here, and we'll go over to this Rams backfield, and the worry here is somebody said was Cam Akers. I don't really know what to think about this one. I left it on here just because it's an interesting name. He got a lot of carries, wasn't as productive as Malcolm Brown. Obviously, Henderson wasn't really involved. I mean, first pro game for a running back who, I mean, had his own issues in college. I don't really know. Like, I think he's, in my opinion, I think he's still going to eventually take over this backfield. I mean, we've seen Malcolm Brown, right? He's Malcolm Brown. I don't know if we're going to get 18 for 79 and 2 touchdowns out of him every week. Cam Akers, I think, is probably the more electric player. But as we've said many times already on this show, without a preseason, without a real camp, it's hard to get some of these rookies involved. And we've seen it a lot with these, except for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the rookie running backs didn't do a whole lot. It's tough for them. Pass pro and everything doesn't work for them as well without this practice. So, Kevin, what's your thought here on Akers and this Rams backfield?
Yeah, I think it's going to be, well, I mean, Henderson is dealing with an injury now, so I think it's going to be kind of a two-headed backfield between Brown and Akers. Watching the game, Brown definitely looked like the more comfortable back. He was actually kind of making moves and stuff. He was catching the ball well. Akers, to me, it looked like he was just grabbing the ball and heading straight for a hole and not really trying to do anything, not trying to make anybody miss or anything like that. So I think until Akers gets a little bit more comfortable, I think Brown is someone who you can play as like a flex. Akers a little bit lower on that side. But I wouldn't be too surprised if Akers, because he's just so talented, is eventually going to get more comfortable and make that more of a 50-50 split.
Yeah, I tend to agree there. Next guy here is DJ Shark, and yeah, he got in the end zone, but there's a lot of people pretty worried about the lack of targets for him. He saw 3. Yeah, he caught all 3, but only 25 yards. The touchdown really salvaged his day. I mean, targets just went all over the place. They actually didn't even pass the ball all that much, considering it was a 27-20 game, which is weird. Dylan, thoughts on DJ Shark here?
Yeah, it was kind of a weird game. Like you said, they only threw it 20 times. And Shark is, to me, obviously the most talented player on that offense. So I'm not super worried. I'm still rolling out Shark in all my lineups this week. He should see more targets. They who do they have? Who does the Jaguars play this week? They got Tennessee, right?
That sounds right.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yep, Tennessee. Yeah, I just closed their stuff. So
the Jaguars should be down in that game, so there should be more pass attempts.
You would have thought they would have been down against the Colts too, but it didn't happen. They're pulling a late season Miami and shacking the world last year. The front office was a tank, and
you can't tank when you have Minshew, man. You cannot tank. He's just too good.
That's magic. All right, magic. Next guy. Interestingly enough, here. Sorry, I want to save this guy for last. So, Austin Ekeler is the next guy that I want to talk about here. I started souring on Ekeler as the season got closer. I was all in on him early. I started hearing really good things from the beat writers about Kelly out of camp. So I was like, maybe they really are going to put Kelly in that, that Mel Gordon role. And Ekeler is going to, not that Ekeler can't just be Ekeler, like even with Mel Gordon there, but like I was hoping for more. I think we got more. I really do. 19 carries. If you had told me he was going to get 19 carries and then add on the reception, he got 20 touches. It's like 320 touches for the entire season. You told me Austin Ekeler was going to get 320 touches before the season started. I would have put him as like RB5, dude. Like, no way. But he's not going to get that. We know that. That pace is not going to keep up. But 19 carries is promising. He didn't get the touchdown, but 84 yards rushing, not bad. You do want to see him more involved in the passing game, and that's, I think, the worry that people have, and that's where he makes his chunk yardage, where he scores a lot. Kevin, I mean, what's your thought on with this? Like, new quarterback, everything. Like, how worried are we that Tyrod's is not targeting Ekeler or any of these running backs, really?
Yeah, I'm not worried. I'm worried. I'm super worried. Sorry, I got my words a little mixed up. I'm super worried about this. I wasn't really high on Ekeler going into the season. Like, obviously, he's super talented, but Tyrod is not a guy who throws to his running backs a lot. The thing with running quarterbacks is that instead of hitting the dump off options, a lot of times they kind of just break off and scramble.
Yeah.
Or they try to make a play somewhere else and they look downfield and try to throw it. And Ekeler, while he was a decent running back last year, the majority of his work last year came as receiver. He had almost 1,000 yards receiving, 8 touchdowns. So
like 80 catches, something crazy like that.
Yeah,
right?
like 90 catches, 110 targets, something crazy like that. So just thinking about, I don't know what percent you want to decrease that, but if you take that production away just because Taylor is not going to throw in the ball like Rivers is, then he's just inherently not as valuable. And then you bring in the fact that Josh Kelly apparently looks like he is going to be a factor. And Ekeler really scares me at this point. Obviously, like, he's still like an RB2 or something like that. But if he is going to have those, 3 target, 4 target, 1 target games, that really limits his upside.
Yeah, I agree there. Next guy, and I put him down here just because I think the backfield as a whole is interesting, and you brought it up earlier already. But Kerryon Johnson, and the guy even said, he's like, look, I wasn't expecting him to be a top 10 running back or even a top 20 running back, but I was expecting way more than I got. 7 rushes for 14 yards, not involved in the passing game at all. Adrian Peterson came in and stole this backfield, which I don't think anybody was really expecting. Not to this level, man. 14 carries for 93 yards. And then he even caught 3 passes for 21. Like, what? Swift was there, 3 carries, 8 yards. Got a touchdown, dropped a game-winning touchdown. Sorry, Dave Eddy. We talked about that on Sunday on the Last Call pod. He's heartbroken,
that's
man.
Rough. Yeah, that's rough.
I saw that, was like, oh no. But our Bears fan producer Jeff said it's beautiful. He loves it. But carry on. I mean, I almost think he's droppable at this point because I don't think Swift is just going to take over for him more as the season goes on. So is there any reason to hold on to him? Dylan, what do you think?
No, I think go ahead and drop Kerryon. He, like you said, 7 carries for 14 yards, yet AP came. I think he had 14 rushes and he killed it against that
93
defense.
Yards. Yeah.
So Kerryon
The
is definitely
machine.
droppable.
Absolutely
Stops,
crazy.
man.
Yes. DJ Moore is the next guy here, and I think it's more just he was just okay. I mean, 9 targets, you like that. Only caught 4 of them for 54. You see Curtis Samuel caught 5. Robbie Anderson caught 6. Took the big one, 65 yards, whatever it was, for a touchdown. So obviously that kind of pads the stats. I think DJ Moore is obviously the more talented receiver there overall for that team. But we got Teddy Bridgewater, who's okay. But were we a little overhyped on DJ Moore coming into the season, Kevin?
Yeah, Moore is definitely going to have better days. And I think he is still, like you said, the most talented guy out of that receiving core. But yeah, now my concern is maybe Teddy is the type of guy who doesn't just lock onto his wide receiver 1, and maybe he likes to spread it out, and he's just gonna, whoever's open gets the ball, that kind of thing. And we're not going to get the blow up wide receiver 1 games that we kind of hope for with DJ Moore. So there's a little concern there, but he's definitely going to have better games. I wouldn't jump ship yet.
Yeah, I agree. And the guy I want to talk about to end it, to kind of feed into our next topic here, is Nick Chubb. And last week, the whole Cleveland offense wasn't fantastic. I think the worry there for a lot of owners for a lot of people who have Chubb on their team is the fact that in week 1, not only did Chubb, not score, got 10 carries, Hunt got 13 carries and 4 receptions. So Hunt out-touched him completely on both sides. So that was a huge worry. Now, already in week 2, we've seen Chubb get 12 and Hunt get 1. So I think the worry is not there anymore. I think everybody who said Chubb, and there was a lot of them.
I honestly think, and this is going to be you just have to throw these games out where the teams are going to get boat raced by KC and Baltimore and maybe even New Orleans or Seattle. If they're just getting boat raced, just throw the results out. You can't learn anything from that.
Yeah, because and that's what I said on Sunday to Dave on the Last Call pod was that, I kind of wonder if, look, Chubb's obviously not as talented as Hunt is in the passing game. So when they got down 3 scores within the first quarter or whatever it was, they obviously just left Hunt in there as much as possible because Hunt can run the ball, but he is the way better passer. So you've got that dual production, that dual threat from him. Where with Chubb, it's Chubb's in the backfield. Yeah, he's going to run up the middle. That's what he's going to do. So it was one less person for the Ravens to cover coming out of the backfield. And that's what, so I think we're seeing it here. Obviously, the Browns are up 21-10 late in the second, and Chubb's getting all the work. And so this is what we expected to happen. I think Hunt will now come in and get his. I'm actually kind of surprised to see Hunt not get involved more at this point. Now he does have a score.
I just saw him catch a touchdown.
He just scored. Yeah. 2 for 15 and a touchdown. So he got this little dump off pass here in the end zone. So he's having a pretty good day himself. But I think we can all sort of agree that this backfield is going to be sort of a headache most of the year. It's going to be game dependent.
Definitely.
But it's going to be hard to sit any one of these guys, to be honest with you. Hunt's, obviously that flex conversation. Chubb's, in my opinion, Chubb was always an RB2 coming in. I know some people had him as an RB1. I never did, just because Hunt's there. And you had games like last week where you can't rely on that. So
I had I'm sorry. I had for the prop bets column I took the under on Chubb's rushing yards because Kevin Stefanski comes from the Vikings, where they pretty much divvied, even though he had Dalvin Cook, they divvied up the touches a lot between Madison and Mike Boone. And I think, he has that mindset where he's not just going to go with the RB1. So I knew coming into the season that last year, Chubb accounted for something like 89% of all of Cleveland's non-quarterback rushing yards, which is just insane. So that was going to go down for sure. And we're kind of seeing that with Hunt. What was the tweet that you saw? I forgot what it said. I forgot who it was from. It said something like, why are people drafting Kareem Hunt's handcuff?
Oh, yeah.
That was crazy. That was classic.
Why did people draft Kareem Hunt's handcuff in round 2?
Yeah, it was funny.
I laughed. It was pretty funny. Real quick before we jump on to the next segment that Kevin, you're going to lead here. Ryan Cams hit us up on Twitter, on YouTube, sorry, and he's asking a flex spot question here. Julian Edelman or Sammy Watkins?
Oh man, it's gonna sound bad after what happened last week, but give me Sammy Watkins, man. I'm just gonna do it. Yeah, give me Sammy Watkins. Cam in that offense against Seattle, Edelman's gonna be fine, but Watkins, if it's a flex play, just go for the upsides. Give me Watkins. I think he'll be okay. I know San Diego, not San Diego.
Yeah,
the Chargers. Yeah, the Chargers have a pretty good secondary back there, but they're gonna have to spend a lot of energy focusing on Tyreek and Travis Kelce, and we said that last year. But I think Watkins. Yeah, I'm in again. I'm in on the Lizard Man again.
Oh. I've already given my answer pretty much. Dylan, what'd you say?
I guess, like Kevin said, it depends on what he's trying to chase there. If he needs somebody with a little safer floor, I would go Edelman. But if he's wanted to chase a little bit of upside, I would probably go with Watkins then.
Yeah, I already answered him, and he can listen to the show and hear you guys' response. I responded and said, I can't trust Watkins to be consistent enough. This guy just disappears. Did this exact same thing last year, week 1, blew up. And everybody's like, oh, man, Watkins is here. He's arrived. What? and then he was dead the entire rest of the year. Like it was, I can't do it. Ed, he's dead to me. Like I don't, even if he has one big game, I don't even look at him on the waiver wire. So
No, I'm a sucker, Joe. He paid 80% of the snaps, 9 targets. Come on, buying with me. Come on.
Nope. All right, what do we got next, Kevin?
All right, so let's kind of transition into some of the running back splits that we saw in week 1. I mean, again, we didn't have a preseason, so it was kind of dicey how some of these, these backfields were going to play out. We already talked about Cleveland's a little bit, so we don't have to get into that. But let's talk about the Rams. We touched on that a little bit earlier with, the Akers talk. But Dylan, what do you think about the Rams backfield going forward? Would you rather have Malcolm Brown or would you rather have, kind of the upside of Cam Akers?
Right now, I think I want Malcolm Brown. He just looked better than Cam Akers last week. Akers, I think eventually, once he learns the offense a little more, he'll get more involved in the passing game. I think he'll take over. But until then, I think it's Malcolm Brown's job for the most part.
Yep. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, Joe, we already kind of talked about this. Anything to add?
I mean, I'm more on the Akers side. I want the upside. Like, I don't think I'm starting Brown over almost anybody I have on any of my teams. So, like, he's going to sit on my bench and, like, just sit there and eventually lose value. So, I'd rather, if I'm going to squat on somebody, it's going to be Akers. Like, I'm going to sit him on my bench and see if he can figure this out.
Yep. I mean, yeah, you just got to go with the upside, the second-round draft pick, the pedigree. I mean, Malcolm Brown, I looked it up the other day. I had no idea he's been in the league for 5 years. Like, that's crazy to me. 5 years, like, and you haven't.
I don't think I did either.
Yeah, if you've been in the league 5 years and you haven't done anything, like, it's pretty surprising you're even on a roster at this point.
Right.
All right, let's move on to the next one. This is one we actually haven't talked about yet. So the Buffalo Bills, they played the hapless Jets last week, and coming into the season, there was a lot of talk about Singletary being an RB2 early, and then camp started, and he kind of got dropped way down because people were saying that he wasn't going to handle the load at all. So this game, week 1, Singletary played 59% of the snaps, had 14 touches. Zach Moss had 45% of the snaps, had 12 touches, but he got the touchdown. Dylan, I asked the same question. Who are you a little higher on going forward?
I'm leaning towards Zach Moss. I think he'll be the one who's more involved in the passing game, and I think that he's going to get most of the red zone work. I think he has a little, so that gives him a little more upside than Singletary, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, Zach Moss is the bigger back. He's the more prototypical, first and second down back. Joe, you got anything to add to that?
So you said something, Dylan, interesting. You think he's more involved in the passing game. So I think it's actually the opposite. I think Singletary's going to be more involved in the passing game. So in like PPR leagues, I would lean Singletary. I think in your like half and standard leagues, I'd lean Moss. I don't know. This game was weird. Like I was really surprised that it was as even as it was with snap counts and stuff like that, and like touches, like it's totally split right down the middle. But PPR leagues, you've definitely got to lean Singletary just because he's gonna get those extra catches. I mean, yeah, Maul's got the touchdown, but I mean, you flip a coin each week to see who's gonna get it, right? You're good luck guessing that one. So this is one of those backfields where you said it earlier. I forget who it was. Like, oh, the Ravens really like I don't want any of them.
Yeah.
I've got Moss in a couple spots because he was late enough, and I was just like, all right, fine, click, let's see what happens. Well. But it's one of those, like, you're going to be beating your head against the wall, like, if you ever have to try to figure out which, if to use this guy. So,
yeah, good luck. Yeah, that's fair. It's one of those things where, like, if one of them doesn't get hurt or something like that, they're both just going to kind of eat at each other's value the whole way. We talked about the Ravens enough. I think, Dobbins, it's kind of the same thing as Buffalo, really, where both of them kind of just make each other unstartable. So let's go into some really horrible backfields, and let's just kind of talk about them at least. The New York Jets, fun. Oh man.
No,
Le'Veon Bell's going to
talk about the Jets.
No, I'm here to talk about the Jets. I need to hear. I need to hear your Frank Gore take.
I don't have
one. You could be like Jonathan, pick up Kalen Ballage.
Oh no!
That's disgusting.
Damn, man, just throw him under the bus. All right, Jonathan.
I'm here to call out Jonathan for everything that he does. But yeah, if Dylan, if you have anything to say about the Jets, are you picking up Frank Gore? What is he, running back 6 for you this week, or maybe even higher?
I can't.
I need
do
to drink
Frank
more to
Gore,
talk about
man.
Jets.
But he never goes away.
Yeah, man.
It's just crazy. But yeah, once again, I don't want anything to do with the Jets running backs.
Yeah, I said it on the Fantasy Edge the other day. If I lose my fantasy league because I didn't pick up Frank Gore or Josh Adams or Caleb Ballage, then so be it. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
I whatever. Joe, I know you got nothing to say.
No, nothing. I'm done.
What about another AFC backfield that, in my opinion, is this one was actually very surprising to me. So we had the Dolphins coming into the season. We thought it was going to be Jordan Howard. We thought it might be Matt Breida, but it was Myles Gaskin who was the most impressive guy. He had 13 carries for 66 yards. Are we taking anything from this, Dylan? Like, are we still trusting Jordan Howard? Or is Matt Breida useless? Is Myles Gaskin worth a pickup?
That one's so tough. That one was so weird to me.
I sprung this one on you. Yeah.
We
It
threw in a
was
couple extra ones.
It was so unexpected, you know. Gaskin wasn't even on my radar. He just came out of nowhere, you know. But
I honestly thought he was confused with Kalen Ballage. And when it happened, I was like, wait, didn't they try to trade this guy to the Jets? And I looked it up. I was like, oh, no, my bad. That's Kalen Ballage.
Yeah, man. It was definitely a wild one. But I have Howard in a few different leagues just for the safe RB3, RB4. But that's not looking good. And Breida might, like you said, might be droppable.
I've had a lot of people ask me about, is Breida droppable? And I'm like, yeah.
I guess so.
Why are you holding him at this point? Like,
Yeah.
I've got it because literally in a couple leagues, there's nobody to pick up. Like, I'm staring at him and I'm like, I want to drop him, but I don't know who to drop him for. Yeah, I mean, shocking snap count numbers, man. 69, almost 63% for Gaskin, 23%, 22% for Breida. Yet he got like no work. Like, he didn't touch the ball when he was in there. And then Howard, 14%. I think he went in and out with injuries, but I think because of the fact that he was sort of like, you know, he was, I guess there was like an ankle issue with him or something. Like, at one point they thought he had the hamstring injury. The guy, it was supposed to be, somebody said it was him and it was really Parker, but I think he was having his own injury problems. But I mean, like, I still think if you're going to own somebody in this backfield, if you really have to, it is still Jordan Howard. I will be interested to see if it changes at all if they activate Lynn Bowden. I mean, they did trade for the guy.
Right.
Yeah, but when they traded for him, they listed him as a receiver.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, because they lost Hearns and I think Jakeem Grant to COVID. They both opted out for COVID. So they were a little thin on receiver.
Yeah, now that
We'll
Parker's
see.
got his hamstring
that
issue.
too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Preston Williams,
all right.
all out.
Yeah. So speaking of injuries, let's jump into these here. So a little rapid fire injury here. We'll touch a little deeper on a few of them, but we'll just kind of rip through these. There's a lot. Obviously, the big ones here: Marlon Mack out for the year, torn Achilles. Unfortunate here. Michael Thomas, the other big one, high ankle sprain. We're hearing a few weeks to he might push through it. I'm gonna guess he's out 2 to 3 weeks. Is my guess at best. Running backs, we've got Phillip Lindsay, turf toe issue. We've got conflicting reports where he's day to day or he's expected to miss the next few weeks. So just kind of keep an eye on that one. My guess is he'll probably miss this week, which kind of boosts Mel Gordon a little bit. They got a pretty tough matchup, I think. Justin Jackson for the Chargers out with a quad, didn't practice. He didn't practice Wednesday. I didn't update his for some reason. I updated almost everybody else's. Duke Johnson ankle. He is practicing, so that's interesting. A lot of people were thinking like David Johnson's going to get a big boost because Duke Johnson's out completely, but maybe Duke Johnson pushes through it. James Conner's a big one here. Ankle injury. He practiced Thursday, so maybe he is going to be in there. There's kind of some muddled discussion where maybe Conner's going to be okay. Otherwise, if not, Snell gets a gigantic boost. He was phenomenal. He looked better than Conner, even when Conner didn't have the ankle injury this past week. So I think they're going to have to get both of these guys involved. In fact, it may be a running back situation we discuss next week if both guys do play and play the whole game. So that'll be interesting. Jumping into some receivers here, we've got Julio Jones dealing with a hamstring. He's limited in practice. Jones is kind of 50-50 in my opinion, like when it comes to the injuries, and a lot of times he'll tough it out, but sometimes he doesn't always. So it's going to have to watch the news, see if he can get in a more legit practice here. John Brown, foot injury, did not practice Wednesday. I did look this one up and I didn't update it on the chart for some reason. So, but keep an eye out on that one. Cortland Sutton, shoulder, he limited in practice so far. So that's at least good news. I mean, he was apparently close to playing last week, just didn't get on the field. So maybe that's enough to get him on. We've got Kenny Golladay dealing with a hamstring, didn't play last week, and looking unlikely to play this week too. I want to ask you guys about this one, Kevin. Marvin Jones was a huge play, especially in DFS. Disappointed badly last week. I mean, what do you think about Marvin Jones if Golladay is out? Is he like it's still an automatic plug-in if you've got him sitting there?
Yeah, I think you just got to roll him out there. Like I don't believe in Quintez Cephas, fifth round pick who had 10 targets. Like, yeah, 10 targets is cool, but Marvin Jones is a proven dude. Kind of just like the DJ Moore situation, kind of just like, like those situations where like OBJ, like if the targets are there, I assume the work will come if you're talented enough, and Marvin Jones, I think, is talented enough.
Yeah, hopefully they can have a little more success when they play Green Bay, who, despite Green Bay winning, they still got pretty lit up in the secondary there.
Cleveland had a good game, so yeah.
Do you guys think if Golladay doesn't play, I mean, it already kind of opened up the door for more targets for Hawkinson. It looked like Hawkinson become pretty much the red zone threat for the Lions.
Yeah, I think Hawkinson, if he'll just see more work than he normally does, and he'll benefit the most from Golladay being out probably.
Yeah, I'm a huge proponent of Hawkinson right now. If you can get him in your lineups, jumping over here, I'll take the next couple, and then Kevin take over here. So Devontae Parker, hamstring, he's limited in practice. He's looking on the wrong side of questionable in my opinion. So this is another guy I wanted to ask about, and Dylan, you can take this one. What do we think about Preston Williams? If Devontae Parker is out, I mean, does he get a boost, or like, I want to say they're playing New England, so like, how much do we? No, they're not playing New England. Who are they playing?
They got the Bills, right?
Yeah, they got the Bills. So like, that's a tough matchup there. If Preston Williams has to face that number one corner,
yeah.
I mean,
Tre'Davious White.
Yeah.
I'm pretty high on Preston Williams. I'm a big fan of his. I think he's really talented, but it's going to be tough to play him this week, like you just said, with the matchup of Tre'Davious White. That's tough. I think Gesicki's a good play out of there. Since
if anybody,
if Williams is going to struggle, so
yeah. Last guy here for me is N'Keal Harry, shoulder, limited in practice so far. So, I mean, they got a Seattle team who the defense is really coming around. So I don't know if I was really high on him this week anyway, but just something to more injury news to talk about. Kevin, take it away, man.
Yeah, Harry is actually someone I feel like I'm not hearing enough about the fact that he had a 32% target share. Like it's not nothing.
I took a couple of chances with him in leagues where I could get him late just because, hey, he was touted huge coming out of college and everybody loved him. And then he had battled injuries and inconsistency last year. And I thought, hey, you know what? If he comes into the year healthy, why not? I'll take a chance. And I didn't drop him anywhere, even though he didn't do great. But I am a little worried about that New England offense. Like Cam really does just eat so much work from people. I mean, I don't know if that's going to continue. I think the coaches are going to tell him, like, you need to stop that. Like, you're going to get hurt again. At least I would. I mean, that's what he does to himself. He goes out there and just tries to be a tank, and he just gets himself hurt.
You got to think about the Kelvin Benjamin corollary. This is something that Jonathan came up with. Kelvin Benjamin had success with Cam Newton, and N'Keal Harry is better than Kelvin Benjamin, but similar. Therefore, N'Keal Harry is going to have success. It's cut and dry. There's no way it's going to fail. Moving on to another Patriots receiver, Edelman, also dealing with a knee injury. Doesn't seem too serious. I mean, Edelman is always banged up, but this just goes back, adds more fuel to my fire. Start Sammy Watkins over Edelman. Don't listen to Joe. Golden Tate is the next guy on the injury report. He has a hamstring injury. He was limited in practice. He didn't play last week, which kind of led Darius Slayton to break out. That's a guy who I'm interested in asking you guys about because while the Giants' offense didn't really have a good game, Slayton went off. Ingram didn't do anything. Shepard didn't really do anything. Obviously, Saquon Barkley didn't do anything. Dylan, are you worried about? I mean, I don't think Tate coming back fixes anything, but is it just like they had a bad matchup with the Steelers, or are we worried about the Giants' offense at all?
Maybe a little bit of both. Probably lean towards a little bit more with Pittsburgh's their defense, is a top 5 defense. But unfortunately, the Giants don't walk into really any better of a matchup this week against a pretty decent Bears defense, obviously.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, Daniel Jones, at least, I mean, he looked good. He was under siege all game. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, that Steelers D-line and linebacker core, they are for real, dude.
Every time I looked up, TJ Watt was in the back, or TJ Watt was in the back.
Somebody, anybody, man. It was just like, God.
Their defense is just flying all over the place.
Yeah. So speaking of the Steelers, we've got Deontay Johnson. He had a toe injury. He practiced. Juju Smith-Schuster, he had a knee injury. He practiced. So I assume those two are going to be good to go. Moving on to the Bucs, which is kind of dicey. Mike Evans, he was, supposedly he was almost going to miss last week, but apparently, he got over the hump and he made it in and did absolutely nothing except catch like a short touchdown. This week, supposedly he's going to be healthy. Chris Godwin is the one who's a little up in the air. So he's in concussion protocol right now. He missed practice 2 days in a row. Concussion protocol is a little bit tricky.
And it didn't start till Wednesday.
Right.
Yeah,
so I think he's gone, dude.
I'm expecting him to miss this week for sure.
Yeah.
And then, hopefully he doesn't miss more weeks. But, we've seen
Happy Miller time.
We've seen people miss like 5 weeks with, concussions. We've seen people miss only 2 weeks. So it's super hard to deal with that. So, Joe, you kind of got into it. Are you really picking up Scotty Miller?
I mean, look, on some of my teams, I'm dealing with A.J. Brown, Kenny Galladay, Devontae Parker. Absolutely, I grab Scotty Miller. I have to. I got to take a chance with somebody. I mean, look, if you've got some of these guys, in the top 20, no, you don't care about Scotty Miller for a week, maybe 2. Yeah. But, yeah, Scotty Miller is a great plug-in if you're in desperation mode like me. And I think he's 100% going to be in my lineups for DFS this week.
Yeah. And, I mean, Scotty Miller, he fits that Tom Brady mold.
Yeah.
He's what Tom Brady likes to see in his receivers.
What are you trying to say, man?
He's gritty. He works hard. He knows the playbook. He's first in, last out. All that stuff. Last one for the receivers. You mentioned it, A.J. Brown. He's got a bone bruise. Looks like he's going to miss week 2, and he's going to be reevaluated after that.
Came out today.
Is Corey Davis this year's Devontae Parker?
No. Move on.
All right, moving on.
No way.
Hey, Corey Davis, man.
He could be this year's Sammy Watkins, right? A good week 1 and then die again.
Well, you're the one counting on Tannehill, so it'd be bad for you.
Well, I count on Tannehill with A.J. Brown there, so I may be swapping back.
Yeah, you might have to. Especially Baker. Baker's leading a good offense right now.
Baker's looking good tonight. I overreacted. I panicked.
Yeah, you did. You gotta take your own advice, man.
I know.
Moving on to the tight ends. These are some back end tight ends. So we'll start with the bigger news one. George Kittle with the knee injury that he suffered because Jimmy Garoppolo threw him an absolute duck of a ball, put him in a horrible position. He didn't practice, but expects to play. Is there any concern about him? He didn't run. He only caught 5 of 7 targets in week 1. Are we worried about him as a top 3 tight end, Dylan?
I think he'll still float around top 3 tight end potential just because the Niners don't have any other passing weapons, Yeah, but I'm happy that injury wasn't more serious because it looked absolutely nasty when it happened. So yeah, I'm glad he avoided something serious there.
Yeah, Joe, you got anything to add?
No. I mean, I think
Yeah, that about covers it.
maybe this week, if he doesn't play, you're just kind of gonna go desperation mode. Maybe pick up Jordan Reed, but good luck.
He does have the Jets this week, so soft matchup.
Yeah.
The other two tight end injuries, Jack Doyle, surprise, hurt again. Didn't practice Wednesday with an ankle injury.
Looked good last week, though, man.
Yeah, I mean, Mo Alley Cox is the backup there. I don't know how much you're going to trust him, especially if Philip Rivers is going to throw 20 times a game to his running backs. Gerald Everett, the other dude for the Rams, he had a back injury. He practiced today, so he'll probably be fine. I don't really, not really too concerned about him. Although, the Tyler Higbee experiment didn't really work out week 1.
Yeah, he saw a lot more work. That's something interesting. But if Everett does get knocked out, then obviously Higbee is right back in the conversation, I think. So we saw what happened before. So, all right, let's jump into our week 2 picks here. Let's finish things off. So, Dylan, what we do here is we go through and give a sleeper quarterback, running back, receiver, and then a bust quarterback, running back, receiver. I gave you the criteria beforehand. So we will let you lead the way here and give us your quarterback sleeper.
If you're desperate, go ahead and roll out Kirk Cousins. I'm not a huge fan of Kirk Cousins, but he plays the Colts this week, and we saw what Gardner was able to do against that Colts secondary. Only incomplete and throwing one incompletion. And the Colts do a very good job of stopping the run, so that might slow Dalvin Cook down a little bit. So Cousins may have to throw a little more. So if you're desperate, I'd throw Kirk Cousins in my lineups.
All right, Kevin, what you got?
Philip Rivers. Minnesota secondary is absolutely awful. They're dealing with a lot of changes. Xavier Rhodes, not necessarily the best player ever, but he's gone from that secondary. We just saw Aaron Rodgers light him up. Rivers, he had a worse game than people really think. I mean, he threw the 2 bad interceptions, but that's what you get with Rivers. But he still threw 45 passes, completed 36 of them for 336 yards or 363 yards. Looks like he's going to throw the ball a ton in this offense. So I'm willing to throw him out there against a weak Viking secondary.
Yeah, I get on board with that. So I liked mine. I picked it yesterday until today. It was Ryan Tannehill playing the Jags. Maybe he can still figure it out without A.J. Brown, but I don't like it as much as I did when I wrote this down yesterday. So Philip Rivers was my second option, so maybe I'll just hop on your bandwagon there, Kevin.
As usual. That's fine.
Okay. Let's do a running back here. Dylan, you lead the way. Who's your sleeper?
Latavius Murray. With Michael Thomas out this week, I think Kamara is going to be more involved in the passing game, and that just opens up more carries for Latavius Murray.
Get on board with that.
That's interesting. Yeah, Kamara, they can split him out wide. Yeah, and he could definitely run some routes. My running back is someone you touched on earlier, Benny Snell. I think he's flat out better than James Conner. Like, every time I watch them play, but Snell looks better. Connor's dealing with an injury, and I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of just ease him back into it and give Snell the majority of the workload. The Steelers are 7.5-point favorites against Denver this week, so that should be a lot of running opportunities, especially considering Denver is coming off a short week because of Monday Night Football.
Yeah, I like that one. I was looking at that one too. I went a little bolder here. I went with DeAndre Swift. He good matchup. And despite the drop at the end of the game there, I think he's going to start getting more and more. We already talked about this. I think he's going to start getting more and more involved. AP's there, and he was the steady vet. They could kind of lean on him, and he was just on fire last game. But we've seen that happen from him before. First game of the year, he's just like a man on a mission, and then it just starts just going downhill, and everybody else just passes him. So, I don't know if Swift's going to pass in this game, but I think Swift could kind of get into that flex area of play if things fall right for him. So I like him a little bit this week. Receiver, what you got, Dylan?
I got Sterling Shepard. We kind of already touched on it a little bit. Golden Tate's banged up, and if he doesn't play, Shepard's going to line up in the slot. And we talked about it. It's a tough matchup against the Bears defense, but if Shepard's in the slot, he's got the best matchup on the field against Buster Screen's going to be covering him, and he's not very good. So that's a matchup to attack if Golden Tate's out.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good one. Buster Screen, always attackable. My sleeper for wide receiver is going to be Anthony Miller. Only played 42% of the snaps in week 1. He still caught 4 of 6 targets for 76 yards and a touchdown. Going back to week 1, every single Steelers receiver was productive against that Giants secondary. Juju, Deontay, Chase Claypool, and had some nice catches. James Washington even caught a touchdown. So I'm going with Anthony Miller this week.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Are you worried at all about the target share and the snap counts for him? It was pretty low for him.
I think it was, but to me, like if it's low and he still
41%,
42%. Yeah, to me, if it's low and he produces, it just means like theoretically that offense is or the coach is going to look at it and be like, oh wow, he's actually good at football. Let's get him a little higher. I was pretty shocked to see the Ginn and Wims were like right there with him.
Yeah.
And Mooney, like what the hell? Like what?
Yeah.
Vastly outproduced them on.
Of course he did because he's way better.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe I shouldn't be counting on a coach to do the right thing, but
especially in Chicago. Sorry, Jeff.
Oh,
don't sleep on Darnell Mooney. Okay.
What number is there, Jeff? Yeah, you didn't know.
Oh, man. All right, I'll give mine here. It is Paris Campbell. Dude, I was high on him coming into the year. I think he was just hurt last year. Couldn't get involved. The quarterback situation wasn't good at Indy. But obviously we saw week 1 right away. Philip Rivers just targeted him a lot, and I think it's going to continue. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he finishes above T.Y. Hilton this year. He plays that perfect role for Rivers to get him the ball often and in good spots for him to perform. And he's a talented receiver. So I'm really buying into Paris Campbell right now. So, all right, over to the bust side. Quarterback bust. Who you got, Dylan?
I got Kyler Murray. They got the Washington football team this week, and after watching them play the Eagles, it kind of scared the shit out of me. Washington's front seven's real solid.
Nasty.
Man.
Yeah, they're nasty.
And obviously Arizona's offensive line's not good, so Kyler might have a tough day back there.
Yeah, I thought about that one. I just wonder if the fact that they were starting like basically a backup offensive line is going to matter that much more. And the fact that Kyler will run. Wentz runs a little bit, but nothing like Kyler does. So Kyler will just get himself out of trouble. But that the front seven may not matter for they may just be that good this year for Washington. Time will tell. So, Kevin, what you got?
I've got Deshaun Watson going against the Ravens. I think we saw last week, like the Ravens, their cornerback depth is just insane. You've got Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters, Tavon Young, Jimmy Smith. Like any wide receiver concentrated passing attack is going to have a real problem with the Ravens. And I don't even think the Texans have that good of a wide receiver attack. And I think Watson is going to struggle kind of like he did last week. He might add some stuff on the ground, but it's hard to count on him for that. They don't run like designated run plays for him. Like he just gets his stuff off scrambles.
Yeah.
So Watson's someone I'm kind of worried about this week.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Just garbage time might save his season.
Maybe.
I'm going with Mr. Unlimited himself, Russell Wilson. Look, I know he's awesome and he's one of the most reliable guys out there, but going against that Pats D, man, that's a scary defense to face. They're top notch all across the board. They make everybody look bad, it feels like. So I don't think he's gonna be like unstartable, but he's not gonna. I think he's being ranked as like running, QB6 right now. He might be like near the back end of the 12 range. So, real quick before we move on to running backs, we do have another question here via YouTube. Kate Ellis talks. Would you guys trade Diggs and Singletary for AJ Brown, or would you guys trade Diggs and Hunt for McLaurin or Shark? I'm not doing the first one because I don't know about this AJ Brown injury, so I think that one's off the table for me.
I'm not doing the second one either. I don't think Diggs is much worse than McLaurin. Like, come on, it's the Washington offense. I'm not really buying into that. Chark. I don't think he's that much better than Diggs that makes it worth it. Hunt is actually like a valuable piece.
Yeah, I agree. Dylan, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you guys on that one. So.
All right. So continue on here, man. Give us your running back sleeper.
The running back bust, you mean?
Yeah, sorry. I'm trying to tie the talk.
Get it together, Joe.
It doesn't work, man.
This one was a little tough for me, but I went with Dalvin Cook. It's kind of it's a tough matchup against the Colts. I think game script. I think the Vikings might end up having to throw the ball a little more, which he could get work in the passing game, but I just don't like it. Obviously, you're starting Dalvin Cook no matter what, but I think there's some bust potential there this week.
All right.
Yeah.
What you got, Kevin?
I'm trying to see someone for our roundtable this week. Someone told me that they expect Madison to have like a crazy game or something. So, anyways, I'll get back to that if I can find it. So my bust for this week is Raheem Mostert. He saved his day last week with a 76-yard touchdown catch, but otherwise he had 15 carries for 56 yards. He only had 19 of the 30 RB touches, and that was Tevin Coleman was kind of limited because of the air quality. I think he has like sickle cell or something like that, so he wasn't going to play much. Yeah, and meanwhile on the other side, the Jets defense held Zach Moss and Devin Singletary to a combined 41 yards on 18 carries. So I think their defense, if anything, their run defense is still pretty okay. So Mostert is someone I'm probably staying. Mostert and Coleman and Jerick McKinnon, they're all probably someone I'm staying away from this week.
All right. I'm going Mel Gordon here, and it's more just the matchup. I mean, the Steelers, we've already said it, the Steelers were just making life miserable for the Giants offensive line. Barkley, every time I looked up, Barkley was getting tackled in the backfield, and there was nothing he could do about it. It was like,
it wasn't his fault.
Wham. I mean, nothing he could do about it. So I was surprised somebody didn't say they were worried about Barkley after this week, but
I think everyone understood.
Not his fault,
everyone watched and we're like, okay.
Yeah, he's going to be good, but yeah, I'm just going with Mel Gordon, and if Philip Lindsay starts, he's right up there with him. So, all right. Last one here, receiver bust. Dylan, go.
Terry McLaurin. He's going to get the Patrick Peterson shadow this week. So I think last week, San Francisco only threw in Peterson's direction, I believe 3 times or something like that. So he's a shutdown corner. That's just something I'm staying away from this week.
Fair enough.
Yep. Makes a ton of sense. My wide receiver bust is going to be DK Metcalf. Similar situation as Stephon Gilmore. I don't really have to say much more than that, do I?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I picked Russell. So I'm going maybe a little crazy here, but I'm going Tyreek Hill. Maybe this plays right into the Sammy Watkins
bounce back game.
But hey, they got 2 corners, dude, that can both get it done. Casey Hayward and Chris Harris. Yep. One of them is going to shut down Hill. The other one's going to shut down maybe Kelsey / Watkins. We'll see what happens. It's just, I mean, Hill's just so boomer bust, man. I know he's better than some of these boomer bust type receivers, thanks to Pat Mahomes, but I just, this matchup scares me with him. So, all right, right in your wheelhouse, Dylan, we're going to bounce over here to tight end streamers. And if you guys don't know, he writes the tight end streamer article for the site every week. I believe that went up today, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So what we do here is we're doing 40% or less owned in Yahoo leagues. So who are you starting here with?
This one's kind of gross, guys, but I'm gonna roll
Are
with
they all?
Jimmy Graham.
Hey, whatever, man. He scored.
The signing was obviously everyone gave the signing this offseason gave it a bunch of shit, but they obviously have a plan for him, and they're obviously targeting him in the red zone a lot. So, and when you're looking for a tight end streamer, all you're looking for is someone to get in the end zone,
Just looking for someone with a pulse.
Yeah. For real.
All right, who's your tight end streamer?
Similarly, mine is OJ Howard. Like, this is disgusting. I feel horrible about it. But caught 6 to 8 targets for 35 yards and a touchdown. Gronk kind of didn't really look like himself. He was being used more as an inline blocker, which he's still fantastic at. But OJ Howard saw a lot of the field, and I think he could get a little bit more usage with Godwin out. He kind of has a soft matchup with the Panthers, so I think OJ Howard is someone I'm willing to roll out this week.
Yeah, I was looking at him too. Mine, though, I went pretty interesting. Logan Thomas gets that Arizona D who can just get thrashed by the tight end year after year, it feels like. He led the team in targets last week with 8. I mean, how crazy was that? Did not see that comment. I mean, he could be this year's like Darren Waller, right? And all bad team is going to get peppered with targets, and he'll just be good because of it. So who knows? Maybe Mr. My good old Hokie over here, Logan Thomas, will get it done. So, all right, defense. Let's end it here. Defense streamer. What do you got, Dylan?
I kind of already touched on it earlier, and I'm going to go with the Washington football team's defense against Arizona. I think they could cause a couple turnovers. Kyler may fumble, maybe throw an interception, but I like them this week.
Yeah, I mean, that defense, I saw somebody they had like 5 first-round picks on their defensive line. I don't even know how that's possible.
I think there's 7 first-rounders on that defense somewhere. It's so crazy.
That's nasty. And yeah, Chase Young is the real deal. Like, he came, I can't believe it. He just came in. He was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a Pro Bowl D end." Like, yep,
yeah,
he's Pro Bowl D end. I'm like, what the hell? Yeah, he's crazy. My defense is going to be the Tampa Bay defense against the Carolina Panthers. They didn't really have a good fantasy day at all versus the Saints, but they held them to a very inefficient day. They only had 271 total yards and 3.3 yards per carry. I know the Panthers scored 30 points, but that was against the Raiders, who we disrespect all the time. So I'm willing to roll out Tampa. I think their defense is actually pretty underrated. They've got players all over the place. I think they get it done against Carolina.
I had trouble picking one, and I actually didn't pick one. I realized as I look at my notes. I wrote down the obvious one for the week was the Rams, but they went over 60%. Everybody picked them up. They're playing Philly, and that offensive line, if it doesn't get healthy, is just going to get abused all year. So I think the Rams could do some damage if they are still available. I think go get them. So
1%, yeah.
Yeah, I mean 61%. So they're still out there in a lot of leagues. But if I'm going by the rules here, you know what? I'll say Green Bay against Detroit. No Galladay. I mean they did pretty well against Minnesota until Minnesota decided to just step back and just chuck it down the field like 40 times. It was weird. Like that game just got like so strange in the second half. I wasn't expecting that to happen. So
when you have Kirk Cousins, you just gotta throw it.
Yeah, I mean, 24 points in the fourth quarter. They held them to 10 through three quarters. So, Detroit's offense isn't anything to write home about. I'm not super worried there, but that's a really reach pick. I'm not liking it. So, all right, that is it, man. Dylan, I want to thank you for coming on. It was a great show, and make sure we tell everybody where they can find you on Twitter and everything else before you go.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at dclemens2222. And Joe already touched on it. I write the tight end streaming article every week for the website Fantasy Six Pack. So, and I also host the Wolfpack Fantasy Football Podcast, and that drops in your feed every Saturday morning, and we pretty much just go through the games of the week and game previews. So,
yep, sounds good, man. So, That's all we've got. Kevin, you got anything to add before we close it out?
Quick plug for my podcast too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Come on, man.
We do talk about it a lot.
No, you gotta let me. Come on. Let me plug. The Fantasy Edge, me, Richard Seville, Jonathan Chan. I think we come out every Tuesday morning. We kind of just react to the weekend's games, give you a little bit of waiver wire stuff, a little bit of jokes, but it's a good time. You can find us on all the same platforms: Patreon, YouTube, or not Patreon. Although, no.
I was gonna say what?
Anchor, Spotify.
Anchor,
Spotify, YouTube, whatever, all that stuff. Wherever you can find Joe and Dylan, you can probably find us.
Yep.
Joe, thanks for having me. If you ever need me again, because AJ's a flake, I got you.
Shh, don't tell them.
I think every time I come on here and I co-host, I just throw a little parting shot at AJ on my way out.
It's fine. He deserves it.
He doesn't listen at this point. It's 2 minutes left. He's not listening.
It's fine. So, all right, that's all we got. Good luck in week 2, everybody. Hit us up on Twitter and talk to you later.
Can I stop?